Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Checking. Test 1 2 3. Are we live? Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully everything is going okay. Just wait a second here to get everyone in here before we start. Hey, Mr. Benadorm, how's it going? Can you guys hear me? Just checking to make sure. Yeah. Okay. Can you guys hear the music subtly in the background? It's not too loud, but just enough to kind of fill the silence a little bit. Yep, loud and clear. Awesome. Hi, Panda Girl. Hi, everybody. All right. So let's start with this. Let's start very up front. What is this? What are we doing? So today, we're kind of doing something that is just a 1 hour stream of just us talking about Spyro. And it's essentially, as coined by one of my moderators, a yap sesh, which is where we're just going to talk, and it's going to be a great time for me to be able to answer questions, talk about what my current thoughts are right now. And if this becomes a popular segment, it might be something that we host perhaps on every Saturday or whatnot. So, excuse me. Give me just a second here to get the alerts out, and we will begin. We're not playing Spyro today. We're not playing Spyro. We are simply just going to be talking about Spyro, and we're only going to be going for an hour. That's it. So, and it will give you guys an idea as to where I am. Give you guys an idea. First. So this is all very experimental. Just like that. Give me a second here. Almost done getting set up. Am I going to be streaming later tonight? Probably not. Not tonight, no. That's why I figured, I was like, you know what? I missed the Thursday stream because of Thanksgiving, so this might be a great time to give this a shot. And we're going to see what's going on. Spyro, yeah, I'm here for it. Let's go. Is the music in the background too distracting, or is it okay? Or can you even hear it in the first place? Let me get that set up. By the way, if you're like, oh, I don't like Spyro 4 speculation, the exit is back there to the right. Because that is basically what is going to be the main topic of discussion today. But also, we will open the floor to questions and stuff. And again, I'm going to be able... Can't hear it. Okay, can't hear it. Well... Can't hear it. Okay, well, we'll pause it for now then. It's not really adding anything. Can't hear it at all. Okay, well, we've turned it off for now. So, ooh, noodles. Yes, I have noodles for lunch. Almost done. All right. So, it's tinfoil hat making time. Yes, so, now that the alerts are, or most of the alerts, hold on, we got one last alert. I forgot blue sky is a thing. There we go. Okay, so, I got pen. I got paper. It's a Saturday, early afternoon. I was about to say Saturday morning, but it might be Saturday morning for some of y'all. So let's talk about Spyro, and let's talk about Spyro 4. So for those who don't know, I made a video earlier this week talking about Spyro 4 and the release date. And we'll get to your question in a second, Kraken. And I just want to quickly review with you guys that video. So that video essentially was after I had sat down, and a lot of people were, I had released a poll and a lot of people were saying, yeah, I don't think Spyro 4 is going to be at the Game Awards. So I thought, okay, clearly there's a disconnect here, because I thought it was going to be. I was like, I thought it's very possible it could be there. But there was clearly a disconnect. So I decided to sit down and look at that. And I decided to do more research and dig a little bit deeper. And my research resulted in agreeing with the fact that it probably won't be at the Game Awards, due to looking at how emerging franchises work. And that was the key. I don't think I can undersell or oversell how important the emergent franchises discovery was. I know that it was a Crash Bandicoot related video, but it also applies to Spyro as well. And the emerging franchises video, and figuring out how that works and how it works structurally, it allows us to be able to predict and see where they're going with things. And seeing that we have a precedent, which was Tony Hawk 3 plus 4, we could use that as the basis to figure some things out. And so because of that, that's where I came to the determination that I don't think we're going to see Spyro 4 at the Game Awards. Is it an impossibility? No, it's not an impossibility. Of course not. But I would rather let you guys know my thoughts and feelings and deal with disappointment than, even if my thoughts and feelings change coming up, and just stay quiet and just hope for the best. And, you know, I want to temper people's expectations, right? And because I have taken lead, I feel, in the Spyro 4 speculation and then the rumors and everything, I feel responsible to also rein things back, right? And that's where I felt I wanted to temper everyone's expectations with that video, to make sure that people understood what I was going for and what I was trying to say. So that was something that I wanted to make sure that everybody understood where my stance was on that, so that everyone knew. So the first question that we have gotten, and I have a few topics here, so don't worry, it's not going to be driven purely by community questions, but it could be. These sessions could be. So let's see. I have the first question. What do you think should be and what should not be in Spyro 4 in your opinion? So I did do a big video about this, what should and shouldn't be. But I don't think... I can tell you what I think is going to happen, and then what I think should happen. And what I think is going to happen is that Spyro 4 is not going to be, or whatever. I'm sorry to hear that, Gaming Pez, but I'm happy that you're here. So let me pose this question. I don't think Spyro 4 or this next Spyro project, listen, I call it Spyro 4. It may not be called Spyro 4. But it may not be called Spyro 4. But we call it Spyro 4 until we get the official name. It might be called Spyro Subtext, right? Or Spyro whatever. Or the of Spyro, okay? But we call it Spyro 4 until we get the official name. So I don't think Spyro 4 is going to be Spyro done Crash Bandicoot 4 style. As in, Crash Bandicoot 4 was very much, let's look at the original games. And here's Toys for Bob's interpretation of, if we continued from 1, 2, 3, and 4, or 1, 2, 3, this is the continuation, right? And that is what I think was the big goggle and mindset for Crash Bandicoot 4. Midas just sent 5 Canadian Guy gift memberships. That is amazing and kind and amazing. Again, thank you so much. Alan Stanley, the I can't pronounce that. Lady Party, Wow Bob Wow, and Axel all draws. If you guys are here, make sure to give a thank you. Thank you so much, Midas, for sending over 5 memberships. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you as well. Thank you so much for the support. So, yeah, if you're here, make sure you say thank you to Midas. So, I don't think it's going to be called Spyro 4. It might be, but it might not. I think that they are going to be doing something different, and I think that they're going to be expanding, and there's evidence to suggest that they're going to be going the route of, if you know the game Okami or Kena Bridge of Spirits, those platformer-based games with some action involved. You can even look at like Jak and Daxter. You can look at... and then Midas became a member himself. That's 6 memberships. Thank you, Midas. You are amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So... what's going on is that I think that we're going to be seeing more RPG elements, right? So based on that mindset of this is what I think they're doing, let me go to what I don't want them to do. I don't want this to become the Legend of Spyro beat 'em up light. I don't want that, right? I don't want it to be... because I jokingly nicknamed it back in the day before we grew bigger, and I had to be a little bit more gentle with my wording, because back in the day when I was small, I didn't think too many people would watch the channel, but now that people are watching the channel, I gotta be a little bit more censored with my statements that I say about certain games, because I know that the Legend of Spyro community is very beloved. But I jokingly called the original, especially the original Legend of Spyro games, God of War Light, God of War for kids. And I don't want that. I don't want that at all. The stream last night went great, Midas. Thank you. Thank you for asking. It went fantastic last night. I don't want that at all. I don't want it to be God of War Light. But I do think that there are a lot of ways to incorporate RPG elements without losing the element of Spyro. And I think that that's going to be a really tight balance to walk. And I think Toys for Bob is going to be trying to do something different, but different in a good way that I think will shock fans, but hopefully not shock them out of the game entirely, where it's enough of a shock where people that maybe didn't like Spyro originally or didn't play Spyro originally and feel like that they don't, that, you know, oh, I gotta play the original games, that it's just enough different that people who didn't like or play the original Spyro games will be intrigued by it. And then people who felt like they have to play the other games don't need to play the other games, but that fans of the franchise will be eating it and love it and be right in there. And I think that the overall net gain from that will be positive, but there's a tightrope to walk there. It's a very, very tight rope to walk there. And I'm not jealous of Toys for Bob for that, because you add one mechanic and you can veer fans away. You go too close to the original and you don't have enough to be able to market to a new fan base. What we want is we want Spyro to be able to come back. We want Spyro to be able to come back as a mainline franchise where both people that played the originals and people that play this new comeback version are able to both relish and love it and enjoy it. So I think that there is a very fine-tuned balance there where there's going to be people that are like, yeah, I just played the new Spyro and I loved it. I adored it, right? And inevitably there are going to be people that are going to be steered away, because there are going to be people that are going to be like, I just want Spyro 4 a la Crash Bandicoot 4. And there's going to be people that are going to be like that, and that's what they want. That's all they want. They want that. And I don't think we're going to get that. And I think a lot of people might be disappointed in that. Maybe not a lot of people, but some people will be disappointed. But I think for the overall health of the franchise, for it to also keep going and keep growing, you need to be able to push it further past than just, oh, it's a nostalgic platformer. The nostalgic platformer should be its foundation, but it can't but we have to expand. But it shouldn't be the parameter. It shouldn't be just that. It should be able to expand, but that still be its core. And I hope I'm making sense. Sup, my purple nerds? Hey, how's it going? So, to the different amount. Yes. Do you think they'll try to incorporate elements from Enter the Dragonfly, but properly done well? Like, take the ideas from them and execute properly. You know what? That isn't a terrible idea. I do think that the elemental breaths, when it comes to RPG elements, I don't think we're going to be seeing Spyro look like Zacian from Pokemon, where it's just wolf with a sword in its mouth. I don't think we're going to be seeing much of a aspect in that way, where it's going to be Spyro with a sword in his mouth. No, I don't think it's going to be like that. So the only way that you can really do it is upgradable paths to attacks. And I think having elemental breaths is going to have to be involved there. I would like them to go a little bit more. I would like them to go a little bit more unique, other than, oh, this is electric breath. Oh, this is fire breath. I would prefer if it was like an ability, like, okay, you have your fire breath, but then Spyro also has like an electric charge, where while he's flying midair, you could tap a button and he like turns to like a bolt of lightning and dashes forward and is able to instead of just hover, it's like a midair dash, but it's like lightning, you know? So it's like, okay, it's not just breaths, it's elemental abilities that go beyond just breathing X type of damage. It would be like, oh, you know, and then different types of things that are a little bit more unique and done more than just, oh, let's just do this, if they're going down that route, right? So I do think that is going to be a thing. Demia's dono goal last night. I did through via Super Chat and Streamlabs. We were able to meet the dono goal last night. So now we're back to the rent bar, which today is the last day to contribute to the rent bar. If you want to contribute to supporting, paying the rent to keep the lights on, there's a link in the description below. It helps out and allows me to continue to do this full time. And if you guys really like this, we'll be doing more Spyro Yap sessions on Saturdays, most likely. Let's see here. I see what you mean. The design philosophy of the original trilogy should be the baseline for Spyro 4, but not the entirety. Exactly. That's my thought and feeling, is it shouldn't be the entirety. It should be the base philosophy, and it should be the driving philosophy, but it can't be the only philosophy. It can't be the only philosophy with modern bells and whistles. It should be, hey, this is the arrow point, but we're building more out of it, if that makes sense. Do you think it will be a little like Donkey Kong Bonanza skills? I'm leaning more towards Sonic Frontiers, but with much smaller, instead of just a gigantic wide world, just a lot more smaller levels and more platforming. I'm leaning more towards that, I think. In my opinion, that's when I visualize it with my mind's eye, but a lot more compact and a lot more, but still explorable, right? Or even like Astrobot. Astrobot would be another really, maybe a bit of a better example than Sonic Frontiers, but probably more like Astrobot. Let's see here. Space combat. Close combat is difficult for quadruped past the ramming. Exactly. Bubble breath, yeah. What do you think if they made a Spyro comic miniseries that tells the story between Reignited and Spyro 4? I would love that. I would adore that. I would hope for that. I want that. Give me that. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for some really fun stuff. Let's see here. Do we think we'll see Dark Spyro in any capacity? I think having Dark Spyro as like a hidden boss, I think would be awesome. I always thought in my mind's eye, whenever if I were to design a Spyro 4, I would love for every future Spyro game for Dark Spyro to be kind of treated like a $50 donation. Hold on. Hang on. Let me finish my thought here, Elena, before you break my brain with a $50 donation super chat out of the blue. Hang on. I always like the idea, if you got anyone's ever played Kingdom Hearts always has a secret boss, and it's like Sephiroth, typically. That's what I think of. And I think it would be really cool if that there was this adjacent story that progresses very slowly. So you got the main story, and then on the side, there's this weird Easter eggy story where once you beat the game and you unlock everything, there's a secret boss that is very difficult, and it's Dark Spyro. And I think it would be really cool where after you defeat him, he like fades away, and then the next game, Spyro 5, can't believe I'm saying those words, but Spyro 5, he makes a return at the end of that game too, but it's harder than the previous one, and it's more like, and again, if you're going through the game, you find Easter eggs, you can find books that tell you about that, and I think that it would be a really interesting adjacent story. I think that would be really awesome. Elena with the first donation. The second donation. There was someone else that donated too, and the alert bar didn't go off. I apologize for that. Let me pull this up real quick. I apologize. Hold on. My alerts are still kind of squirrely. Jim donated $30 through Streamlabs. Hey, CG. I missed the stream last night, but glad I can make this one to chat Spyro. Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for the $30. I appreciate that. And Elena, thank you so much for the $50. Thank you. Since Nasty's surprise bill was dealt with last night, take this for birthdays, Christmas, for the whole family. That's very sweet. Thank you. Thank you so much, Elena, for the $50 super chat. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. So that was what I always thought when it came to, that's what I always thought when it would be a great idea for Dark Spyro, would be kind of like the secret boss. And I think that would be really cool. I do apologize if I missed your question. There's a whole bunch. Do you think they'll stay with the same art style? Yes, I think that it might be tweaked or adjusted, but I don't think they're going to be changing it. I mean, that was the outstanding feature, I would think, in Reignited, was the art style. The art style, the look. I mean, it's timeless. You could play Reignited 10 years from now and still say it looks good. It's one of those games that it just looks awesome. Like, the art style makes it timeless, and it doesn't age the game. So I think that they're going to keep that. Have you heard any rumors from any inside sources with new information that has yet to be confirmed that you haven't revealed? Not asking to tell us, just curious. Yes. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to say yes. Not going and relatively recent too, but again, and not like, 3 months ago I heard this. No, relatively recent, but not saying a word about it. The true final boss was the darkness within all along. I know. KH-style secret bosses, sign me up. Yes, absolutely. I'm just gonna put jumper in here for a second. Okay. Because I understand. Because there's glass out. Okay. And I don't want him to hurt himself. Okay, that's okay. Thank you, sweetie. So, all right, close the door, okay? Watch your feet too, okay? If Spyro, were to have a crossover with another platform mascot, who do you think it should be? I mean, it's pretty obvious, to say Crash Bandicoot, I think, but you could also do something fun with Banjo. I think, Banjo being able to, with Kazooie being able to kind of hover a little bit, I think you could make something fun with that too. Because, I mean, it's pretty obvious to go with Crash. Greens from Greece. Greens from Canada. How you doing? What are the chances that we get Spyro 4 in 2026? So my current thought process is announce and release in 2026, right? That's where I'm at mentally. That's what the evidence I think best shows, is that. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's guaranteed to be that, but I do think that it is a strong possibility that we could get something like that. I think that is something that is highly plausible, in my opinion. That's what I'm thinking. Do you think they'll release something extra in Reignited Trilogy while we wait, like a little collection or lost content they missed or forgot about? I wish that we would get a free patch for Spyro Reignited that upgrades the PS5 and the Xbox Series X versions, and also they've tweaked the bugs in 3. 3 and a few tweaks at the end of 2. a few tweaks at the end of 2, and maybe some like skins or something like that, some extra bonus little fun features. I would love for them to be able to do that. Will they do that? I don't know, because it would be technically an indie studio working on an Activision brand thing, so there might be some legality issues. I don't know. I would love for them to be able to crack open Spyro 4 again, or Spyro Reignited again, and add some tweaks and adjustments, because I'll still be playing Spyro Reignited even after Spyro 4. Let's see here. Like, I remember how you said something like new Spyro should be friendly for speedrunners because OG Spyro has a lot of speedrunners. How balanced game with backtracking. I did mention something like that. I do think that the speedrunning community is very important for the Spyro fan base. I do think that there should be some way to be able to backtrack levels. So one of the things that it's kind of two birds, one stone. One of the ideas that I came up with, I called it Dragon Time, right? I called it Dragon Time. And it was essentially, the idea was, okay, you activate Dragon Time, and what it does is that it rewinds the level. And if you go back and play Spyro Reignited, for example, you can't recollect all the gems. You can't re-break all the crates. You can't go and re-earn the mini games in succession. Like, you have to literally restart your whole save profile to go back and re-experience those stuff again. And I think it would be really cool. And some things you can, like, for example, the popcorn level. But what I mean by that is, okay, so let's do the popcorn level, for example, the popcorn mini game. After you finish it, when you first play it, you got the easy mode. Once you do that, you get the orb, and then you go hard mode, and then you get the orb. If you were to come back to that level and want to do it again, you would only have access to the hard level. You don't have access to that first easy level. And also, you can't recollect gems. So what I thought would be really cool is that if you have Dragon Time, what would happen is that you can replay the level and you can play it again. And that would also work to help the speedrunners, where they can practice if there's a certain level that they're like, hey, we need to be able to unlock certain things or rip through things at a certain speed. They can sit there and they can practice on Dragon Time and go over and over and over and over and over and over again. And if you're just like, hey, I just want to go through this level again, like as if it was the first time again because it was so much fun, then you can do that. And that also allows you to be able to make these big changes mid-level that then can be undone when you hit the air quote Dragon Time. That's what I'm calling it, but it might be called something else. So I think that would be a really, really fun thing. A free patch with a performance update, bug fixes, and photo mode would be a great way to stir up excitement for the next game. I agree. They should make Crash and Spyro Switch 2 updates. Yeah, you know what? Now I think about it, that would be a good idea. I think a Spyro Reignited Switch update along with there just being an update overall, I think that would be a really good idea. I think that'd be great. I wish they fixed some color palettes inside some levels. Some of them are terrible. Still love the game, though. I think when it comes to gaming, too, you have to realize that there's a balance of some things. Some things are done a certain way. And, for example, the color palette that you might see and be like, hey, I don't like that color palette. They might turn and say, well, the reason why we went with that color palette is because XYZ. And then you're getting into really nerdy stuff to where the general public just doesn't care. And you might think, well, why don't they just listen to what the general public says? And they should, but they also have to have a balance of their own creative view, but also they might have an idea in their head of saying, hey, this color palette now looks too close to this color palette, so we have to change one to make this one stand out over this one, or to make them stand out for each other, because otherwise the color palettes are too similar now. And that might be a problem, right? You have to realize that, there's certain game design philosophy that oversteps on visual philosophy, because you have visual philosophy and you got game design philosophy. And sometimes it's like, oh, you know what? If we do the same color scheme for these two levels, they're going to look almost identical, and it's going to cause people confusion. That's why when you go into each of the levels, even I'll tell you, one of the confusing ones that always got me as a kid was going through all the different levels in Beastmakers, and going through that. In the old days, it was green, brown, and black, And it was very hard to be able to kind of tell which level you were on at initial glance, right? Back then, of course, now we're obsessed with Spyro. We'd be able to know, but a usual player might get mixed up. So what Reignited did was that they adjusted some of the color palettes so that it's like, okay, this one now has more yellows to it to have it stand out more, and less gray and more yellow. And this one has more blues, and this, so that it can kind of pop out, if that makes sense. So I do apologize if I'm missing some questions. I'm trying to keep up. Free patch with performance bug fix and FOMO would be a great way to start excitement for the next game. I agree. FOMO would be amazing. Boss are supposed to usually big boys that mix speed and reflexes, magic, predictable. But that's the thing, is that, you know, with the new Spyro, you might be able to do something new. That might be part of the difficulty, is that typically the bosses are big, and Dark Spyro may not be big, and it might be a more challenging challenge, right? Year of the Dragon was the first PS1 games I owned. Nice. Then played Spyro 2 during middle school and Spyro 1 as an adult. That's awesome. If you ask this, but if there's going to be a new CTR game, then do you think that maybe Crash will be in Crossworlds as sort of a promotion for it? I got a feeling that Sonic wouldn't want another kart racing game that they are in direct competition with to be promoted in their racing game. I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong. I want to be wrong, because having a CTR and Crash in a racing game sounds awesome, but really good note on the standing out. Yeah, that's the big thing. Yeah, I use Beast Makers as an example because it's such an amazing thing. I love it. Let's see here. Hey, dude, you're one of the few people on this website that make me feel like I'm just chilling and being a nerd with a friend. Hey, I like that. I've never been told that, but I appreciate that. That's an amazing compliment. Thank you. Do you think Spyro 4 could have adaptive difficulty like Year of the Dragon did for the Speedway levels? That's a good question. I think that it would be nice if they had options. So I think it would be really, because I think they should have maybe adaptive being like the baseline, but then they have 3 difficulty modes. They have easy, medium, hard. I would really like that. I would like that. I would like, because having adaptive is kind of like the user best experience, but I also would want my kids to be able to play on easy. But also, I would like to challenge myself and know that I would be on hard mode the entire time. And, you know, I don't want the thought of, oh, did it go down? So I think having 3 difficulty modes would be really fun on that. So I do like the idea of there being adaptive difficulty. The Midday Gardens and Midnight Mountain looks awful. Also, many skyboxes are just too bright. Maybe it's just me. 3 is the weakest out of the trilogy in the remake. I don't know how much of the art was done by Toys for Bob, or how much of the art was done by Beanox, or I'm not sure what the work ratio was. What would you want to see as an accessibility standpoint? Examples would be an enhanced shadow circle. I like that. Sparks being able to take more hits, or enhanced contrast mode. So I think for accessibility, you got to have, it would be really nice to have, of course, your enhanced subtitles, even like guided dialogue. I think as well, I think having accessibility baked in certain game modes. So for example, like Sparks being able to reach gems further, right? That would be easy mode. But if you wanted to, you could go into so what would happen is that, here's what my thoughts are, is that certain options would be more, when you choose your difficulty, easy, medium, or hard, some of the options would be baked into the accessibility. So if you chose hard mode, for example, Sparks's gem range will be reduced. But if you wanted to play hard mode and then go to accessibility and then turn that off, you could, right? So, there is a lot of accessibility baked into the game. I think stuff like Sparks being able to point at gems a little bit, maybe a bigger Sparks, maybe gems are bigger, colorblind mode so that gems could be like certain colors that are adjusted for people that have color blindness, and you can choose the type of color blindness that you have. I always love that. I love the choose the type, because it's not just colorblind mode. There are types of color blinds, right? There are different kinds of types of color blinds. There's different types of colorblind features that are not the same. Some are more yellow, some are more green, some are more blue, some are more red. And so if you can choose the type, it then can maybe like adjust the gem color to, hey, it looks like this, because if you have green grass and you have a red color blindness and you got the red gem in there, it can look not great. So, hey Tyler, how's it going? I think that the color blindness, color blindness mode would be, and being able to choose the type of color blindness, I think would be really, really nice, in my opinion. If Spyro 4 is real, I hope Stuart Copeland comes back. So there is actually, and I'll link the video. There is a really interesting video that flew under nearly everyone's radar because the video only has like a few thousand views, where Stuart Copeland actually did an interview with a YouTuber and talking about doing Spyro and stuff, and he even talks a little bit about doing Reignited. And one of the things that's really interesting is that he is into orchestra right now. So the internal theory I've had bumbling in my head, which I don't know if I'll ever put into a video as a I don't know if I'll actually put it in a video because it's kind of just spitballing. But if Spyro is going to be a little bit more RPG-ish, I think that the music is going to have to follow that as well. But Stuart Copeland right now is doing orchestra. So what I thought would be funny is that, when you got an RPG, it's kind of more strings and more, orchestra-based instruments. And because he's gotten more into orchestra, I think it would be really interesting to perhaps have him come and do some scores for the new Spyro game. Let's see here. As someone who's played Spyro for the first time in the past month, welcome. It's interesting looking at reviews and seeing what elements that didn't work initially could be included better in a new game. It's really interesting whenever you approach a dedicated fan base for the first time in relatively, especially times past, and being able to look at what the reviews said and what they said work, and it's a really fun thing to look at, to sit down and retrospectively look. I love looking at like the Ocarina of Time reviews when they first came out and seeing how people were literally losing their minds about it. And I love seeing stuff like that, going back all the way then. From an artistic perspective, which levels did you enjoy from the OG trilogy and Reignited? So, in Reignited, I think Beastmakers is just an absolute overhaul. I mean, I don't think any Spyro fan is going to sit there and tell you that Beastmakers in the original PS1 game looked like a work of art. It was more like a work of fart. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. Like we're not gonna sit here and say it was an artistic revelation. It looked like poop. It looked like poop. And when Toys for Bob, when I first saw Beastmakers was such a glow up it was such an amazing, like, wow, that is such a like, to really show the before and after. Hold on. Come on. Stop lagging out on me. Come on, man. There we go. Got it set up now. So like, this was the original kind of like raw Beastmakers kind of vibe, right? It almost looks like a level out of it almost looks like something out of Medieval, right? Very just green, dark, gray, blah. And then you got the reignited. I mean, it's like, this is supposed to be a swamp, a bog, and to me, this is just a night and day difference. I mean, it's hard for me to go back to here after seeing this. I mean, to me, they brought the world to life in that sense, right? So that to me is amazing. But Dark Hollow was one that was really good in the original and also really good in Reignited. I loved Dark Hollow. Dark Hollow was amazing in both the original and the remake. I love Dark Hollow. Listening to you talk about Spyro is making me reinstall the game on Steam. Good. Let's see here. I'm at work listening to y'all and I love it. Love that you love it. Since Spyro is owned by Xbox, accessibility will most likely be covered. Just look at the options and second ones is fast. Yeah, and also too, there was when we had our interview with Paul Yan, Paul had mentioned that one of the things that he regretted was the accessibility options not being available day one, like the subtitles. That he was upset. He was upset about that on and off the record. He was upset about that and was like mad that that was missed. And wished that that they paid more attention to that. And I think that that is something that is really important as well. So we are at like 40. We're almost like 3/4 of the way through. And I still have like a whole bunch of things here to kind of. We don't have to get through it, but I'll throw something in here that I think is going to be interesting. So let me ask you something. How long or how big do we want this game to be? Let's talk about that for a second. How long and how big do we want this game to be? Do we want this to be a hey, hold on, we got a $5 donation from Kraken. Spyro 4 and the Game Awards are not, probably not. I love your content and streams. Watching almost every one of the VOD streams. Aw, thank you, Kraken 2017, for the $5.80 through Streamlabs. Thank you so much. My Streamlabs alerts are a little bit wonky right now. I do apologize. But hold on, we got cut back here. Didn't realize it. I thought I had cut back. I didn't. So here we are now. But let me quickly talk to you guys about how big we want this game to be. It's how big do we want it? How many hours do we want it? And I think that that's something that we do have to talk about. Now, let me explain. We got to be careful with game size nowadays because unfortunately us gamers are starting to have problems where as soon as a game starts exceeding 30, 40, 50 hours, people feel burnt out and don't want to play it. Right? and people are going to be like, oh my gosh, this is, this is, taking forever to get through. This is taking forever just to finish the story, right? And I think that I think that oh, please don't even get me started on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Like I said, it's like eating a salad bowl of a salad. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is like eating a salad bowl of shredded wheat and nothing else. Just take a giant salad bowl, fill it with shredded wheat, put a whole gallon of milk in there, and start munching. And you gotta keep eating even as it gets soggy and you get tired of the same taste over and over again. That's Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's not fun. So I'm thinking the length of Spyro 1 and 2 combined. That's what I'm personally thinking. So I'm thinking to complete the main story, I'm thinking about 15 hours. And then I'm thinking to 100% the game, something close to 25-30 for 100% all achievements, all collectibles, everything, right? On your first playthrough, not on your second playthrough, you'll be able to probably 100% it in 15 hours on your second, third, fourth, now that you know where everything is, right? But I think that about 15 hours of the main story and, getting through the levels and getting through and beating the final boss on your first playthrough, having some difficulty along the way, I think about 12 to 15 hours, and then 25 to 30 for 100% the first time. And then when you were to play it again, probably about 15 hours on your second playthrough to 100% it again. I think that would be, for 20 hours and probably 4 hours of that, it was running around in circles because the level layout was so bad. Oof. I think that is where your best bet would be the 12 to 15 hours and then 25 to 30 for your first 100% completion. Was that the story was like 6 to 8 hours and it just felt way too short for the price. Rift Apart was a little short on my. I liked Rift Apart. I thought it was a good length, but I think you could have tacked on another 2 hours of gameplay on Rift Apart, I think, for the main story. Yeah, I think that that would be a good time. I don't think it's going to be too long. I don't think it's too short. I think it's a good amount of time. Imagine they just remastered Enter the Dragonfly, slapped a big 4 on it, and called it a day. Yeah, I don't think so. I think there would be a giant riot. I think that would be funny. Let me pitch something. Let me pitch something that's kind of hilarious. Okay, let me pitch an idea. Could you imagine if they are going to be announcing Spyro around Easter, which is typically in April, early April, but there's also April Fools. Could you imagine the first tease of Spyro 4 is them advertising them remaking Spyro Enter the Dragonfly? And it's done like a low quality skit, like it's done like VHS 4x3. We're remaking the game. It's breaking, and the game is breaking as they go. And it literally ends as a tease where the TV changes and it camera pans over to the design of Spyro 4 of Spyro and Sparks looking at each other and going click, and it just says coming soon. It's just like, coming soon. Not this. And it's like, and it just to let you know there's a Spyro. And then like a week later, they announced Spyro 4. Wouldn't that be hilarious? For April Fools, they do a fake. I think Rift Apart and Astrobot are pretty good with their scope. I'd rather be wanting more versus a game overstaying its welcome. I think Astrobot would be a little bit closer to what I would hope Spyro would be than Ratchet and Clank. More Astrobot, because I found Astrobot to still be a lengthy game to get through. Pretty good. I loved Rift Apart, but I still felt like it was just a smidge short. I felt like the pacing was a little fast. So Astrobot's like 12 hours. Yeah, and I think that's Astrobot. Astrobot kind of is right now, if it's pretty close to the modern gold standard right now, right? Everyone said Mario Odyssey before. I disagree, unfortunately. But now a lot of people are saying Astrobot, and I'm like, I agree with that. I loved Astrobot and love Astrobot, and I'll be talking more about Astrobot on the channel in the future, because that's a game I do want to cover and talk about. I think Astrobot is amazing. I think Astrobot to me is just like, as long as they keep going with what they're doing and the ideas that they're making. And the thing is that one of the things that I thought was hilarious is looking back at Astrobot, a lot of its ideas were just taken from Astro's Playroom and taken from all the other games around it. And it was still a blast to play. So could you imagine the next game, how much that's going to get funded and how much more developed it will even be than the last Astrobot? I mean, man, when Astrobot won Game of the Year, outside of Crash and Spyro moments, I think that was one of the best moments for gaming. And I do think, and it's funny because like outside of like the platformer space, there were so many people on Twitter having a meltdown. How could Astrobot be the Game of the Year? And it was so funny to me. I was just like, man, cry harder. It makes me smile. That to me was one of the funniest moments, but I was so happy that it won, because it is a precedent that shows that yes, you can still make amazing games like this. You can still make platformers, and they're still marketable, and they're still considered as great. And it was a phenomenal knock out of the park project. People really feel like the stuff needs that super realism filter to be a game of the year. It's true. It's true, and it blows my mind. It was like, why didn't Black Myth Wukong win? Ah! I remember that meltdown. It was just like, it's like, haha, Astro won, peak. It's like, haha, our silly little 1'2" robot beat your big stupid monkey. No offense if you enjoy Black Myth Wukong, but what's wild to me is that Astro beat like Nintendo in like their category and became Game of the Year. I was just like, what? What? Like, that is wild. Get nerfed by a bot. CG, thoughts on Cinder making an appearance in future games? I did have Cinder written down here. So, I do think there's a space for Cinder, but I think that once again, you're walking on a tightrope when you're talking about Cinder. You're walking on a tightrope when you're talking about Cinder, because there is such a a small, fervent, and dedicated fan base for Cinder, right? They're passionate, and if Toys for Bob comes along and changes some things, you already know people are going to yell and scream about those changes and be angry and be upset. And I think that if there is a natural place for Cinder to be, as long as she's not shoehorned in, I think that people would be accepting. I think people would be accepting of it, but she can't feel like she's shoehorned in. Right? It can't just... Lozzie! We yapping here. We yapping. We yapping. It's nice to see you, Lozzie. So it is as if Cinder is involved and she's not shoehorned in or slammed in over and over again as she's here for fan service. I think it can go well. I think there is going to be people are going to have to react and understand there's going to be a balk initially if Cinder does make it. If Cinder does make it, there's going to be a jolt of we don't want this, or hey, we're upset about this, which is inevitable. It's inevitably going to happen, but we're going to hopefully that isn't going to be too much of a problem. I think that if they do it right, it's going to be fine. I think they do it right. Is there a chance for anything Skylanders related in Spyro 4? I definitely think that it would be a good opportunity, because one of the things about Skylanders is that there are so many characters that people don't know about. So if I were to sit here and be like, let me see here. Give me a second here. Let me see. And so these are just examples, okay? Let me just show you, okay? So if people you are going to get the people who are going to be like, I don't like Skylanders. And then you show them this character. Are you going to sit there and say, yeah, this couldn't be some sort of Spyro character? Right? Are you going to sit there and say, oh, that can't be a Spyro character, right? Or are you going to sit there and say that this couldn't be a Spyro character? Right? Like, we literally have robots. So am I saying maybe like the main cast, like, Skylander, Spyro and stuff? Maybe not. But if there is a darkness realm with dark elves in there that needs to have their hero saved, and when you save and unlock the hero, it's Nightmare, right? Would that really affect somebody who was such a diehard Skylanders, hater? Would that really be a diehard bad thing? No. Someone's gonna look at that and say like, oh yeah, that looks like, it's a Centaur character, right? And it's like, yeah, it's a Centaur character. And then they don't sit there and say, hey, are you from the Skylands? Oh, no, it'd just be like, oh, it's a character in this world, right? Or that giant robot character, right? Where he's a quirky guy and you gotta help him do a side mission or whatever, right? They're not going to sit there and be like, oh, look, guys, it's a Skylander. But if they were to inject them as an NPC in the game and not say anything, if anybody didn't know the characters, it's not going to bother them. And if you know the characters, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, right? So that's kind of like the idea is that a lot of giant robot is bouncer, yes. Just make it natural. Just make it like it's part of the world, right? You could have a water world where you have a whole bunch of, underwater equestrian characters and seahorses, and everything is all nice, and then there's a little military group that are trying to take care of something, and they need Spyro's help, and it's gill grunts. It's a little platoon of gill grunts, right? And they're just this little, they're like you can even throw a little natural funny little throwaway line where for some reason we have been trained to not to dislike everybody, but for some reason we like you anyway. What's your name? Spyro? Sounds familiar. Anyway, to the mission. Whatever, stuff like that. That's not going. Anybody who doesn't know is just going to think, haha, these guys are quirky, and then people who do know are like, oh my gosh, Skylanders reference. So yeah, sure, throw some Skylanders in there. I think it'd be fine, as long as it's not like jammed in your throat and punch in the face. This is a Skylanders character, right? As long as they don't really do that, I don't think people are going to care, right? A lot of fans want to see Ripto back, but as much as I love Ripto, I don't think I want to see him return. He got burnt up in lava, and I feel like his story was wrapped up nicely in Spyro 2, but who knows? I think an expansion, I think an expansion of like Ripto's story, like I said, in my mind's eye of a Spyro 4, I pictured a group of warlocks that kicked him out that are like worse than him and stronger than him, and Spyro has to go and deal with them, and Ripto was kind of like the reject. So it kind of like ups the ante naturally, because it took Spyro a lot of effort to defeat Ripto, and then you find out that Ripto was the reject of this group of warlocks that were actually dangerous. So I think that would be interesting. So we're coming up to the hour. We've come up to the hour, so that means that we're going to be wrapping up the Spyro Yap Sesh. But before we go, I want to show you guys something. So what I'm going to be trying to do is at the end of these sessions, I'm going to be trying to give you guys a little tidbit on something that I may have found, if I found anything. And while we've talked about this before, we're going to talk about this a little bit deeper now. So let me just find the... Actually, I took a screenshot of it, so I can just grab that screenshot. Go with that. So, before we wrap up, if you guys got any... Alright. So before we wrap up, let me show you guys something. Ladies and gentlemen, let me show you one of the most boring screenshots in the world that you're going to wonder, why are you even showing me this in the first place? This is Double Black Capital. What is Double Black Capital? It is an investment firm or a bank in San Francisco. When you read their overview, it says, Double Black Capital, DBC, is a first-of-its-kind growth and strategic advisory. DBC provides bespoke solutions, M&A, platform infrastructure, strategy, and financing to propel the growth of leading companies in the media, entertainment, gaming, and tech sectors. Securities offers through Finale Securities, but the rest doesn't matter. Okay, so you might be like, wow, CG, I just, took all of that and, threw it out. Why would are you showing me anything to do with investment banking? Well, if we go to the next screenshot, we can see here over at LinkedIn that Double Black Capital, DBC, is pleased to partner with Toys for Bob, an iconic U.S. game development studio with a 35-plus year history. The studio revitalized major IPs. Keep this in mind. Revitalized major IPs, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot. I also find it interesting that Spyro is the first one mentioned, but I digress. Collaborated on leading franchises, Madagascar, Shrek, and created its own Skylanders, a BAFTA and DICE winner that pioneered the Toys to Life genre and surpassed $3 billion in sales and 300+ million toys sold. Here is the last line that you want to pay attention to. Newly independent, gosh dang it. Newly independent, we are excited to help fuel the company's mission to become the leading partner to established franchises globally. Now, let me make sure that you hear this last point. To help fuel the company's mission. So the company's mission being Toys for Bob. The company's mission. So Toys for Bob's mission is to become the leading partner to established franchises globally. So to really break this down to the molecular level, okay, established franchises globally, meaning, of course, franchises that have already been established. So not necessarily new IPs, not like, oh, we're going to make our own type of game. We're going to go make our own. No, games that have already been established, an IP that's already been created, right? Leading partner. So they want to partner with established franchises on a global scale. Okay. So Toys for Bob's mission is to become the leading partner to established franchises globally. Breaking that down, let's add another, let's throw another soup in the saucepan here, okay? Let's keep cooking for a second. Let me cook. We already know that they're working on Spyro, and nonetheless, this already proves and adds yet more evidence to that, which I don't need to stress and strain and scream and shout that Spyro 4 is in development, because this establishes that what Toys for Bob is currently working on is an established franchise. So all the people that were saying, they're working on something of their own, they're not working on anything. No, this literally proves that they're working on something that's already been established. The second thing is, in that interview that Paulian did with me, where I said, what other games would you want to work on? He said that, Banjo-Kazooie seems interesting. Okay. So they're working on Spyro, and they're looking at Banjo. Leading partner to establish franchises globally. See, the result, in my opinion, is that Toys for Bob's mission is going to be that they want to become essentially the Blue Point Games when it comes to reestablishing platformers. So, for example, they come with Spyro. Bang, here's Spyro. Next project. Bang, Banjo-Kazooie. And then they can turn around and look at Sony. Because guess what? They're independent. They're not tied with Xbox anymore. They're independent. They can work with whoever they want. They can turn to Sony and say, hey, Sony, you got that Jack and Daxter game. We'd really like to revitalize that one. We'd really like to do that. That'd be really cool. And you also got that little sneaky raccoon. That'd be fun for us to work on. I think we could work on that. I think that'd be fun to use. And then what will happen is that you will see at the start of a show or whatnot, when you see the logo brought to you by Toys for Bob, you already know the idea of what they're going to be doing. You already got a hint of what's going to be happening. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, Toys for Bob is working on this. What classic platformer are they bringing back? What are they doing? And then, ta-da. So the working theory here, as I chat openly, is that it's possible that Toys for Bob might be focusing and looking forward to the future beyond just Crash and Spyro and going for more established franchises. And one last tiny little detail to throw into this blender for this cooking. When we go to the top of their webpage, what does it say? We are an independent game studio that loves to craft epic adventures for timeless characters. Boom. So, one, you got the top of their website. You got Paul Yan recommending Banjo-Kazooie. You got the fact that they are making Spyro, and you got the fact that Paul Yan wants to make Banjo-Kazooie, it seems. You got the top of their website, you got the capital, and you got the fact they're working on Spyro. 4 pieces of evidence that all point to the concept and idea that Toys for Bob wants to be the next company and game studio that's independent, that will come along and remake some of the classic franchises that we all know and love back in the day that seem to have been being neglected by their owners. Toys for Bob is a mascot platformer rescuer. It's like rescue animals. Toys for Bob is a wildlife rescue service for mascot platformers. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about that idea, because if that is true, boy howdy, we're going to be following Toys for Bob for many years to come. So that's going to be a lot of fun. They are currently working on the new Spyro game at the moment. But afterwards, who knows? So, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time that I have for today for our very first episode of the Spyro Yap session. I think it turned out really well. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to support it, consider subscribing, consider liking, dropping a donation, whatever way you want to support. We really appreciate it. Anywhere from anything, we really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. So I will let you guys know. I will let you guys know when the next Yap session will be on the next episode of it. And I hope that you guys very much enjoy this, and also allows me to be able to kind of explore ideas and answer some questions with y'all. So if you guys enjoyed it, let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video and our live stream. Time for the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye.